Hello, welcome back to Dead Talks, the show where we explore the global fight for peace by talking to modern day peacemakers. And today we are talking to an absolute G. I am Miss Helen Seller, and our guest today is Mizan the poet. Plus, check out this mega cuteness. We have Miss Yodi, young Master Yodi on the call, just sat here chilling, joining in the chat, so that's proper nice. And yeah, this is part 2 of our talks about the DSEI Arms Fair. So DSEI stands for Defence Security Equipment International, and it is one of the biggest arms fairs in the world that London hosts every other year. So yeah, we can see that the IPCC reports just come out telling us that we are in code red and that we must act now to protect ourselves from climate change. And at the same time, the UK is inviting human rights abusers to come and buy weapons from our capital city. So it's pretty disgusting. My cat is too cute. And basically, I met Mizan at the Arms Fair protest 2 years ago. He performs some amazing poetry and has real life experience, which makes him very connected to the cause of justice and very connected to the issue, which is arms companies are actually profiting from death and destruction. And, you know, the UK is completely supporting and encouraging this industry in a time of chaos when we need to actually move away and start looking at more sustainable industries and solutions that can help us on planet Earth. But anyway, Mizan is here, so let's get them on and find out more about him, his activism, and the DSEI Arms Fair and how we're going to stop it and why.
Okay, hi. How
Hi,
you doing? Okay?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you so much for having me for this very, very important talk.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're just very happy to be dedicating all our talks this month to raising awareness about the DSEI Arms Fair. And
Happens with all phones all the time. So I'm
I
gonna have to get
absolutely,
used to it a little bit.
it was like great timing for me finishing saying the DSEI Arms Fair, and it's like,
Yeah. Hopefully that
okay.
won't be happening anytime soon. Let me just sort out this. Let me just sort this out.
Yeah.
No problem.
So we obviously met 2 years ago at the DSEI Arms Fair,
Yeah.
which was awesome. We heard you perform some poetry. But can you please talk to us? We don't have many people with us right now live, which is
Yeah.
unusual. But
Yeah.
we
No problem.
shall be saving this to our IGTV. So for anyone that's watching at any point in time, can you please just explain who you are and why you're involved in anti-arms trade activism?
So basically, thank you so much. So my name is Mizan. I'm a spoken word artist and activist, and I guess I've been a campaigner and an activist for like over a decade now. So when it comes to issues to do with Palestine, I was active. We were looking at like Operation Cast Lead in 2009 and 10 and all that kind of stuff, and just been involved and aware about the war and terror, obviously the Iraq war and all those kind of things. They did leave a mark. However, I've always been an avid reader as well. I love reading books on political stuff. And I remember, like, I think it was in 2012-13, I came across Andrew Feinstein's book, The Shadow World Inside the Global Arms Trade. And I thought to myself, okay, I don't really know much about the arms trade, so this will be a very good place to start. It looks like a big, thick book anyway. And then I went through the contents and the back pages and stuff. Okay, I'm like, okay, this guy knows his stuff. So I bought the book, and when I read it, it was such an eye-opener in terms of how the arms trade works and how the war economy sustains basically violence and systemic oppression globally. And that book really, really converted me into into someone who wanted to do something about the arms trade. So obviously I didn't know that much, but after reading that book, it was a good eye opener. It was a good start. And then, even though I had known about Campaign Against the Arms Trade before I read the book, but Andrew Feinstein actually recommends joining Campaign Against the Arms Trade. So I joined Campaign Against the Arms Trade, and as an organization, they're a great organization. They're probably the only grassroots organization around the world that really wants to end the arms trade. And as part of them, I was part of the speakers bureau, where I'd talk about the arms trade, but also we would go and basically protest against arms trade dinners and all these kind of things. And it was via them that I found out about the DSEI Arms Fair, so the Defense and Security Equipment International Arms Fair, which is an arms fair that happens every 2 years in London, in the Excel Centre, and the next one is happening between the 14th and 17th of September 2021. And basically, it is one of the major arms fairs in Europe. And what it is basically is that you have representatives from different arms companies around the world come in and exhibit their weapons, and then you have clients from different governments around the world, and obviously private security companies and all that kind of stuff attend these events to buy the weapons. So you have about I read from the Campaign Against the Arms Trade's website that for this year they'll have over 1,600 exhibitors exhibiting weapons, including BAE systems and Elbit systems and more. And then they have about 30,000 attendees turn up to these things. So it was a real eye-opener for me, and that is basically how I got involved in kind of arms trade activism a little bit. And via Campaign Against the Arms Trade, I got to meet London Campaign Against the Arms Trade, which is London CAT, which is a London branch. And then via them, I got involved in some of their events, including attending arms trade dinners and demonstrating against the arms trade dinners, not attending them, sorry, and and then protesting against venues or kind of events that might be funded by organizations linked to the arms trade as well. So that's kind of like how I kind of got involved in that.
I love it. I love it. That's such a chunk of knowledge, isn't it? Everyone definitely go read investigations. Yeah, I think before we move on, arms trade dinners is such an interesting thing. So can you explain to our audience what it is and how we're protesting it?
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. I don't know if it's my audio or your microphone.
It shouldn't be my microphone.
Okay, but you said something about arms trade dinners, right? So, a little bit, yeah. So you said something about arms trade dinners, right? So arms trade dinners, from what I know, they're very, very difficult to pin down because they're very, very secretive. So this is where Campaign Against the Arms Trade, they're very good because they monitor, so the sort of Twitter feeds of relevant people, of important companies. And, sometimes they might get a hint, someone might say something online, I'm attending such and such an event or such and such important things coming up in 2 weeks' time. And then they might get a hint that some event or some dinner is happening. So the one that I attended, protested outside, it happened in, I think, 17-18, and there was an arms trade dinner near the Tower Bridge, basically, right? That kind of area. So basically,
I can hear that play now. But by arms trade dinners, it's like arms is getting together to work.
Yeah, so basically they network. It's a networking dinner. They might, you know, basically it's, you know, they'll have presentations of different organizations and stuff like that, but it's mainly like a networking dinner that happens between the different organizations. And the thing is these, and obviously in these dinners, that's where a lot of my, you know, backdoor deals and stuff might happen. So basically these dinners are very, very secretive. Like, you know, only people who are invited to these dinners know about them. So this one, only people who were invited knew about the dinner. Like, you know, no one knew, you know, who was organizing it. Cat knew that something was coming up. They just didn't know what it was. So what they did was is they made sure volunteers on that, you know, were kind of on standby on that week, just in case if something happened. And then what happened was is one relevant individual tweeted that they're going to go to this dinner in, you know, in this venue somewhere. And that's when Cat knew, like literally, that's when they knew that's where it was. And it's going to happen on this day. Cool. So they literally sent us a WhatsApp message. And in the message, basically they said, listen, we need volunteers for you know for this dinner that's coming up. Can you attend so and so this time? And I just said, yeah, I knew them anyway, but I just said yes. So I attended. We demonstrated outside. We had signs, you know, like stop the arms trade and all these kind of things. And we were basically demonstrating while the arms trade delegates were walking into the dinner. So while they were walking into the dinner, basically we were shouting like "Stop the arms trade," and, you know, baby killers and all these kind of stuff, make it really uncomfortable for them. And so you could see how uncomfortable they are, because the arms dealers, sorry, they don't really want to see how the weapons are being used. They don't really care. So it's about the profit, right? So when we were, you know, showing the pictures of dead babies and all these kind of things, it's really uncomfortable for them. And so they tend to look away and all these kind of things. But it's important for us to be there because, you know, the arms dealers need to know that wherever they go, especially in London, that there's going to be physical presence of arms trade anti-arms trade activists there to make things a little bit uncomfortable. But then what happens is you know, the event organizers, they learn. So that, you know, so if they know that a particular venue is going to be attended by activists, then they won't go to that venue. They might go to another venue and all these kind of things. So those are the things that happen. And inside, it's just really a gala. It's really like expensive wine, expensive food. People eat all these kind of things, and they network with one another. But what happened is, again, I think this happened in 2017. Two of our activists actually managed to get inside one of these arms trade galas. So they went inside and they pretended to kind of network with the arms dealers, and the arms dealers didn't know. They, you know, the event organizers, they didn't know who the activists were. And funnily enough, in the event, the stage, they had this main stage that was basically left alone. Like, you know, basically they had the main stage with the microphone and all that kind of stuff, but no one was on it. So one of the activists got on it, and he started basically talking about campaigning against the arms trade, you're all killers and all these kind of things. You know, I hope you enjoy killing babies, all that kind of stuff. And then they got escorted out. So, but then before they got escorted out, the other activists, they had cards. They had literal cards of pictures of their babies and all these kind of things. So they left them on the tables and stuff. So those are the things that happen. It's very hard to get into these arms trade dinners, but once you do get into them, you know, we try and make it, you know, a little bit uncomfortable for them, a lot, you know, uncomfortable. But even before they go in, we try and make it as uncomfortable as we can, because we don't want these kind of events to happen anywhere in the UK, but, you know, because we're Londoners, we don't want them to happen in London. So it's those kind of events. And I think, I'll give you another event. This is not an arms trade dinner, but I think, was it the Transport Museum? Or there was one of the museums in London. I forgot which one it was. I think it was the Transport Museum, but I could be wrong. They had this exhibition about, I think it was World War I or something like that, World War I exhibition. And it was sponsored by one of the arms trade companies. I forgot which one of the big arms trade companies. So one day, us at London Cat, we literally went in, we went up, we went up, we went up one of the stairs, and we put a banner down about, stop, stop, arms trade funding and all that kind of stuff. The security knew that we were kind of like they were aware that something was up with us, because we were trying to act like normal, but we weren't normal. We had a plan. So as soon as they saw the banner, they literally came and chased us out the whole thing. So it's like those kind of things that happen. And, they do give you like a kind of like a rush, but they do make you see that, the arms trade is very insidious. It's basically as an industry, it has its tentacles in several different places, right? In several different arenas. And unfortunately, the passing observer or the normal citizen might not know about these things, might not know that museum is being funded by an arms company for an event and all that kind of stuff. We think that the arms trade is not connected to our daily lives, but it kind of is connected to our daily lives. And the thing is, obviously, is the big one is the DSEI Arms Fair that happens every 2 years. So with that one, literally, it's the biggest arms trade in Europe at that time. It doesn't get any bigger than that. The organizers of the event are two organizers. One organizer is the actual government department that deals with the arms trade, that deals with arms trading, but they partner up with another organization called Clarion Events, which is like a huge company that does events across different sectors, including what they call security, hence the DSEI Arms Fair. Now, the thing is as an arms trade activist, this connects with everything. If you're progressive, if you're socialist, if you're left leaning, or if you call yourself quote unquote left wing, then basically campaigning against the arms trade and campaigning against the DSEI Arms Fair should be up your list of campaigns, right? Because what happens is that these companies and the economy and the industries that sustains the arms trade, it sustains war, it sustains inequality, and also these dignitaries that come and representatives that come that buy weapons from all these arms dealers, but we're talking about the DSEI Arms Fair, that buy arms from the DSEI Arms Fair. They go to use those weapons are used to sustain war, and they're used and especially for countries across the world. They are used to control democratic socialist movements. So basically police gearing up with guns and all these kind of things. A lot of this stuff is actually sold in the DSEI Arms Fair and in London. So, and then what happens is that, you have this industry that sustains war. War creates refugees. It creates, poverty, amongst other things, creates refugees. Also, for example, the United States military is an example. The United States military is one of the biggest corporations and the biggest mass polluters in the States, basically in the States and around the world as well. So you have, not just arms companies, but the weapons, the tanks, and all these kind of things that are used by the army contributing to basically climate change. So basically stopping these things will also help reduce, deal with the climate change issue. So, but all of these, refugees, economic, people leaving or leaving the country because they're impoverished, or even climate refugees. You have people leaving the country and coming into countries like the United Kingdom, and therefore it's like you have London, which is a multicultural city, with its problems, but you have a large segment of a refugee population, an immigrant population that have come from war-torn countries to find safe haven over here. And then you have an arms fair that happens over here. So basically, it shouldn't be happening over here. It shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening anywhere in the world, but it shouldn't be happening in the UK or places where kind of refugees fleeing war kind of go to. So the thing is that there are so many reasons why the arms trade is one, almost a central. It should be a central issue that we campaign against, because it sustains war, it sustains the system of global oppression around the whole world, including UK and around the whole world. So when I came to realize that, it was a no-brainer. I had to join the campaign against arms trade. I had to get a bit more involved in that kind of campaign. But then you see the interconnection. So from what I just described, like, so for example, armies like the United States Army, they're massive polluter, they're a massive polluter around the world. So you have the whole climate issue. Then you have the whole issue about kind of dictatorships violently repressing political movements and dissent in their own countries. They're being armed by arms companies, those security companies. So you have that interconnection there. Then you have, let's just say, countries that are using violent methods and violent weapons to uphold apartheid and occupations. They're using weapons. They're also selling those weapons as well. So that's the thing. So some of these corporations, let's just say, who actually use these weapons on, uprisings, on social movements, on liberation movements, actually sell those weapons back in the UK. Some of them, call it battle tested. So it means that, it becomes a unique selling point for other people to, buy and use. So you have this interconnected system of oppression that's happening. And therefore, when it comes to the arms trade and activism against the arms trade, we need to be intersectional as well. So we need to, join in with like the climate justice activists, with refugee rights, with, organizations that support liberation movements, whether in Palestine, Kashmir, Afghanistan, or any other parts of the world. So basically, we need to make sure that our kind of activism is intersectional as well. But going back to one of the reasons why I say it's insidious is because the funding, these organizations might be related. You might have organizations that are connected to the arms trade that fund or invest in or sponsor different things in the UK. One of them might be educational institutions. We all know that when it comes to young people, for example, the computer games industry is very, very heavily invested, invested by organizations linked to the arms trade. But, in terms of the demilitarizing education institutions, universities might have like fairs, or they might have technology fairs that might be
Oh, Mizan's just loading for me. I don't know about you. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. Thank you for being with us. Let's just wait a second. But yeah, I totally agree with what Mizan's saying. Like, even for me, I was really involved in like fashion, sustainability. But when I found out about the Arms Fair, because that was the first protest I ever went to, I was like, wow, like there's one thing being like an unethical supply chain where people are getting treated poorly in the workplace, and like, dangerous polluting fibers are being used and so on and so on. There's another thing when it's a literal gun, which has the sole purpose of blowing your brains out, or a literal bomb, which can kill thousands of people in moments. So yeah, I completely agree with that at that point, for me, the necessity of my activism. Hey,
I don't know what happened there. We got cut off. So what happened? Okay, so sorry about that. I'm not sure.
You started loading for a while, and then you just cut off.
Oh, okay, that's a bit weird because I'm using data. All right, that's cool. It happened for you yourself as well.
Technical stuff. Can you put your phone on silent, please? Because when your phone vibrates, it's like quite like ooh.
Yeah. So basically, I think my phone is on silent. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I put it on silent. So yeah. So basically, where did you leave me? Where did we leave? Because I was talking about.
Yeah, you were talking about the incestuousness of the activism. We have to make it all intersectional.
Yes, so that's very, very important making sure it's all intersectional, and basically realizing that the arms trade is insidious. It's an insidious industry where basically organizations connected to the arms trade will fund different events, different, different venues and all these kind of things. And therefore it's really is connected to our lives, basically. It's part and parcel of the mainstream society. The war economy is part and parcel of the mainstream society. So therefore it's very important that we are intersectional and we understand how the arms trade interconnects with our lives. And if we want a peaceful world, then we need to basically ensure that the arms trade is not just reined in, but it really stops at the same time. So once that happens, then you'll have a real chance at gaining world peace, right? So because the military industrial complex, the arms trade, all these kind of things, they do have a stake in making sure that there is this narrative or this reality of insecurity around, so that they can provide the security. So the government will provide the money and they can continue making the money. So they do make their industry is forged on this, on the reality that there is instability around the world. So that will have to.
I love that you actually just said the word that, like, it will take us closer to actually achieving world peace, because there's so much fear around this topic and people think, oh, it's so complex, it's so, how could we do it? Like, it's inherent for us humans to be at war and in conflict, but the reality is we're much more peaceful than we are conflictual. And when we have institutions like the military industrial complex that is literally trying to incentivize war so that they can continue to make money, and there's so much evidence of this. Please DM us if you're unsure. It is, you start to actually be able to break it down a bit and look at the bigger picture and look at how impactful an industry such as the arms industry is, and where we could be without it, all that resources, all brain power that could go towards a more peaceful world.
And exactly. So one of the things that you said is that a lot of people believe that, oh, it's in our nature to be at war. No, it's not in our nature to be at war. Like, look, we might not get along. Yes, we're as human beings, we might get angry, we might fight, but this idea that it's in our nature to be at war, to start wars and stuff, no, really, no. There's the thing is that is a very kind of conservative way of thinking as well, which I disagree with, because there have been times of peace, there have been times of war, there's no doubt, but there also have been times of peace. But also at the same time, these weapons make war more likely. They make the killing of civilians more likely, and these weapons have become so dangerous now that obviously you have they kill thousands of people. You have obviously you have nuclear weapons as well, which haven't been used, thank God, in the recent times. But you have dangerous weapons that use also phosphorus, white phosphorus, and all these kind of things, really killing and destroying the lives of people. But most of the wars happen for political gain, some sort of a political reason. And yes, there are tensions that might happen between different communities, which they might, you'll need, which need to be sorted out. There's no doubt. But the availability of weapons is more likely to turn these tensions into wars, into battles. So the thing is this idea that we're inherently, we inherently go to war. This is why we need the arms, and this is why we need weapons. This is why we have weapons. No, I believe in the opposite. I believe that yes, as human beings, we might be, some communities might live in tension, but the availability of weapons makes it more likely to go to war. So you're going to choose the less likely, which is to take away the weapons, right? So the thing is that's one thing that I naturally, generally believe in. And I do believe that it is in our human nature to get to know one another, to understand one another, to live, coexist with one another. And I think that's the real human nature. I believe that this idea that yes, people are inherently at war, all these kind of things, it's a very neoconservative way of looking at the world. Good and bad, us versus them. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. So basically, it's up to us to bring law and order and all these kind of stuff. that's a very neoconservative way of looking at it. And I do believe that for me, it's the opposite. So getting, and this is the thing, because we mentioned about video games and things like that. This is how the next generation of youngsters get into, like, let's just say this industry. You have drones, you have tanks that have controllers that look like joysticks, because youngsters play a lot of computer games. So that the most well-known one, the last time I read about it, was like something similar to the PlayStation controller. You have the arms industry investing heavily in computer games, heavily in war games as well, to get people interested, to get youngsters interested. And then you might have like an event or something like that that will really rope people in, that you rope the youngsters in. And I see that as a form of creating child soldiers. This is just my kind of understanding. So and this narrative of child soldiers, where, like, you make the military a very nice option for a youngster to join, and obviously get involved in war and all that kind of stuff. So the involvement in this industry, in computer games, but also in the education industry, they might fund certain events in universities and all these kind of things. It shows how insidious it is. But also, they are also, and this is where it comes into ideology, the industry also has its lobbyists. It also has its think tanks that come out with all these reports about, global instability, how we can bring stability around the world. But they also look at current conflicts, and then they think 20 years down the line, what kind of, how can we respond to these kind of things? How can the industry adapt? But also at the same time, when you're looking at, for example, the issues that are created because of war and the technologies that use war, such as climate change, then you have these, let's just say, kind of arms trade linked think tanks come up with reports about how the arms trade can kind of maneuver around and survive the climate change, what these people need to do, all these kind of things. So all of that is happening already. There's these reports and all these things coming out already about how big businesses, how mega corporations can survive climate change, and what they need to do. But at the same time, you're looking at a system that is very profit driven. So capitalism really is, the way we understand capitalism is, the use of the earth's resources to just without any limit, produce things to sell, basically, to sell and profit from, right? The thing is, and then the money that these people make, they invest it. They go into asset management companies, and they invest the money in asset management companies. But these asset management companies look at the industries that they think will be the most profitable, and a lot of them tell these rich people to invest in the arms trade, literally invest in security. And therefore, there you have money being invested, because there's going to be a lot of profit made, there's going to be a lot of instability, therefore they'll make a lot of money. And therefore, what I've just kind of described is like how capitalism sustains the arms trade, basically. And this is how everything is connected. And for me, this is why, when it comes to, if you're an anti-capitalist, for example, or if you're an environmentalist, or if you're, definitely if you're anti-war, but if you're all those other things, you need to take a firm stance against the arms trade. This is one of the components of the system that supports the global system of inequality, and is very insidious in our society.
Yeah, we need to talk about someone. Someone from ICANN came on a few weeks ago, and they were talking about the report that ICANN has just put out, which it's basically talking about the spending cycle. So it's about government paying private companies to create weapons, and nuclear weapons this report is specifically about. Then the private company pay lobbyists and think tanks to lobby the government and write stuff that supports the government spending even more money on nuclear weapons. And it becomes this cycle of spending, which essentially puts us all behind.
Yeah.
Think about it in context of the climate catastrophe and the fact that, you know, even NATO is saying like, oh yeah, we're gonna go carbon neutral, like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the reality is they don't even have the right checks and balance in. Like their first step of doing that is making their emissions actually transparent and trackable. That's a
Yeah.
whole process which they've been failing. So we can't even understand the true impact of the arms trade at the moment, only
Yeah.
that it's in a little haven of its own security where
Yeah.
it just continues to make money, profit off destruction of people and planet, and
Yeah.
get
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. So one of the, another is, another set of institutions that, invest in the arms trade or invest in arms companies are like, for example, banks, financial institutions. They have a big investments in this whole industry, and also, like, for example, when it comes to, and this is something that even people locally can check out, the local council via the local pension funds and all these kind of things that invest in these companies that may invest in these companies that maintain this system of oppression. So that whole financial sector, again, reforming that whole sector should be something that let's just say people interested in these kind of areas should really take an interest in the arms trade and vice versa. But one of the things, again, but then the other thing is that then you have the actions of arms dealers themselves as well, how they get these, how they get these arms deals to be made. Because again, what you mentioned is about there's a lack of transparency on certain things, but there's also a lack of transparency. Andrew Feinstein himself says is that a lot of the deals happen in the grey area. There's a grey area. There's a there's a legal and illegal, and then there's a grey area, which is a lot where a lot of the arms trade deals happen. And there isn't that much transparency in this area. And this is where a lot of the arms deals gets made. A lot of it gets done in secret, because there is, this is something that Andrew Feinstein and others who have investigated arms trade cases have stated that, all of the arms trade stuff that they've looked at, all of the cases that they've looked at, involved some sort of bribery to the governments and to the representatives to make sure that the sales, the weapons that, the relevant weapons from the relevant company can be sold to these governments. So the thing is that they might, for example, you might have a representative that might be representing, for example, BAE Systems, bribe a certain government to buy weapons from BAE Systems. That's how it happens, and there's different methods of doing this, and it's interesting because historically, I'm not sure now, but one of the biggest arms trade deals that the government was involved with, and this Andrew Feinstein goes in, happened in the in the 80s and 90s. I think, or even before that, called the Al Yamama deals in Saudi Arabia. 40 billion worth of arms literally was sold to Saudi Arabia. Those arms weren't being used at all. They're not, as far as we're aware now, those arms weren't used. Those tanks were not used. It was a waste of 40 billion, But the thing is that there are subsequent investigations into that deal that exposed how there was a lot of bribery that was happening in that deal. Princes were being paid a lot of money. The government. There were individuals. Connected to the government who, were involved in bribing certain princes, certain, let's just say, powerful individuals in the Saudi regime at that time. Certain people got planes and all these kind of things, to make sure that this deal goes through. And
Wasn't
so
it
you have
pounds worth of bribes?
it was a lot. It was definitely, I can't remember how much, but it was definitely, like you said, it was definitely like over $1 billion, definitely. And to be honest with you, this is another aspect of the arms trade that that we need to create more awareness about. this idea of transparency and secrecy, that's how the arms trade kind of survives. That's how it happens. And therefore, campaigns to do with transparency, more democracy, a more open, less secrets, more open kind of, more transparency. This is part and parcel of, of challenging the arms trade as well, because a lot of that stuff happens in secret. So, these kind of campaigns, again, we need to be more intersectional. We need to make sure that those activists who are campaigning for more transparency, more democratic governments, are involved in campaigning against the arms trade, and vice versa as well.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't know how to spell Yamamata. So anyway, there's lots.
Yeah, Yamamah.
But yes, 100%. Like it's it just kind of breeds all sorts of injustice, and I totally agree. We need to be super intersectional. Oh my gosh, my cat has just joined us.
Oh, lovely, lovely. What's your cat's name?
Yodi.
Oh, Yodi, lovely, beautiful cat. Cat stolen the show, basically. The cat stolen the show.
Grumpy bugger. But anyway, basically, yeah, we need to be more intersectional. And this is why what's planned for Stop the Arms Fair this year, as ever, is really great, because there is themed days. There's going to be a day for Palestine solidarity, a day for no faith in war, a day for demilitarizing education, migration and borders, climate justice. There's a festival resistance, and so much more, because we need to get different groups together to quite clearly keep our message straight and say, look, weapons of mass destruction aren't going to help us with climate catastrophe, refugee crisis, any of these things that we're trying to help and solve. It just doesn't. It helps a few amount of people. So yeah, we're talking about the DSEI Arms Fair, so please come down. Now, I'm quite conscious that we're speaking for 40 minutes already, and I really want to leave some time at the end for you to read some of your spoken word, because
oh my God, you know what, I've kind of forgotten my stuff. It's been long since I performed something. Oh my God.
Really?
Yeah,
well, okay.
Ages. Let me see if I can.
No, I'm joking. You don't have to do it if you don't want to.
Yeah, I'll normally would, but I really can't. I can't. Unfortunately, a lot of my poems have skipped my mind. Unfortunately, really sorry about that.
No worries. No worries at all. Okay, well, if you can just answer the question which I ask every guest that comes on Dead Talks, which is, I want to hear your response to why demilitarize education.
Yeah, so again, I think I answered some parts of it. So there are organizations linked to the arms trade who might invest in educational institutions. And there's a very specific aim in investing in these educational institutions. For example, they might invest in fairs and stuff in universities and events in universities and stuff, or research departments in universities. And it's really, the aim is to really not co-opt, but make let's just say the arms trade or the security industry more appealable to youngsters, especially to youngsters involved in tech. Yes, so to come up with all these, come up with research and come up with all these reports and new ideas on advanced weaponry and technology and stuff like that. So these kind of things, but also do think that certain times you might have organizations involved in the military, all these kind of things come down to talk about what they do. You'll have events in universities where the military might have a stall and all these kind of things, and this makes the idea of war and the industry more appealable, more approachable to young people. And therefore, I believe that we need to demilitarize education, because we need to get these institutions off, but also at the same time we need to make sure that the education sector is a safe space to harbor ideas about peace, to harbor ideas about how we can end war, and to harbor ideas about how we can bring about a better world. And you're not going to do that. You're not going to have that if you have an institution that is invested in, or that has investments by corporations linked to this industry. So it's very important that we demilitarize education. But at the same time, once we, demilitarize education, we can use education to inform youngsters about how systems of oppression work, how systems of oppression intersect in our own daily lives, so that we can be better educated citizens to know, and know that, certain things we can be, you have to know about certain things in order to campaign against it, right? If you don't know about these certain things, if you're not like if you're not educated about these kind of things, then you're not going to know how these systems of oppression intersect with our society and, in our daily lives. So it's very important that education, the sector of education, is kept free from the military industrial complex, from, for example, the security complex, and it's safe. It becomes a safe and secure industry where we can harbor ideas about peace, ideas about war, ideas about ending war, ideas about how to end poverty, ideas about, how to deal with the climate crisis and all these kinds of things. And this is the thing, like, technology doesn't always have to be bad. It's used for bad things, and this is why it gets co-opted. But there might be certain things, but technology can be used for some good stuff. Maybe we can use technology to, come up with better crop circles and all these kind of things, and stop, or what's going on with the earth. We need to. There's a lot of youngsters out there who, and a lot of very, very intelligent people out there who are going through the education system who have developed these ideas. But we need to make sure that those ideas are used to make a better world and not a worse one. And therefore, this is one of the reasons why I totally support demilitarized education, because the securitization of education is very, very real, and it's making the education sector not so much of a safe space, and we need to make sure that it stays a safe space. And I think demilitarized education, what you guys are doing, is a very, very crucial part in that.
Thank you. That is so spot on. It is like education, universities especially, used to be places for free and creative thinking, and like you have an idea and you work on it. Now it's so market driven that like you're basically just looking to see what the market wants. As we've already discussed, the arms industry always has money, so it really is controlling the mind, and our education does need to be unbiased and free spaces for us to learn and develop for the betterment of the world. So yes, thank you, Dan. Please comment your answer in some form on the IGTV once it's saved, and then we'll add it to our highlights series.
I definitely will do. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry. You know what? I literally forgot like the pieces that I used to perform. I need to remember them again. But unfortunately, like, 'cause it's been such a long time. Unfortunately, I can't remember. Next time, definitely I'll have it in mind. Definitely.
For anyone that wants to hear Mizan's poetry, go to his page, Mizan the Poet, and you can watch them there as well. So yay.
No problem.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I've had so much fun talking to you, and
thank you so much for speaking to me.
We've really stuck some fire under the Stop the Arms Fair movement, and just you've given everybody in this talk such a good understanding of like how corrupt and how like serious this protest is. So thank you so much for that. I just want to give you 1 second, like just if you have any final words, just quickly say them now, and then
14th to the 17th of September 2021. That's the next DSEI Arms Fair in Excel Centre, London. Make sure you are there joining with Campaign Against the Arms Trade to basically campaign against the DSEI Arms Fair. So make sure that you guys turn up in any of those days. There'll be stuff happening every day to basically stop the arms fair. Make sure you turn up and support, because those guys are doing an amazing job. And the more we become successful in stopping the DSEI Arms Fair, become one step closer to a peaceful world. So let's make that happen.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much, Mizan. Yep. Thank you to everyone that's been watching tonight. We'll be, actually, no, we're not here next week. We'll be here the week after. with more about the DSEI Arms Fair. So thank you so much. Take care
No
and
problem.
remember,
Take care. Thank you so much.
bye.